He used to say that cars don't have souls. That they're just machines, metal, oil, noise. I believed him, until I met the Mustang. I grew up in a town where nothing ever happened. One main road. One gas station. And a scrapyard that looked bigger than the school. People there didn't dream big. They worked, complained, and waited to get old. My old man worked at that scrapyard for 23 years. Every day he came home smelling like rust and gasoline, sat on the porch, and stared at the road like it owed him something. One night, I asked him why he never left. He didn't even look at me. Because leaving costs more than staying, he said. I didn't understand back then. I was 17 when I found the Mustang. It was buried behind 2 wrecked pickups and a burned-out RV. A 1969 Fastback. Faded blue. No engine. No interior. But the body still looked angry. Like it wanted another chance. The scrapyard owner laughed when I asked about it. Kid, that thing's dead. Been dead for years. I told him I'd work for it. Weekends. Nights. Anything. He shrugged. Drag it out. It's yours. That Mustang became my prison and my escape. I worked at a diner during the day. Scrapyard at night. Friends went to parties. I went home with cuts on my hands and grease under my nails. Every dollar went into that car. Used parts. Craigslist engines. Junkyard miracles. People laughed. Building a race car in a town with no races? What are you gonna do, impress cows? I didn't answer. Because deep down, I wasn't building a car. I was building a way out. The first time the engine turned over, it was midnight. My dad stood behind me, arms crossed. The engine coughed. Shook. Then roared. Not perfect. Not smooth. But alive. My dad didn't smile. He just said, "Be careful what you wake up." I didn't listen. Word spread fast. A Mustang like that didn't belong in our town. One night, a black Camaro pulled into the gas station. Out-of-state plates. Aftermarket exhaust. Confident driver. His name was Cole. He looked at my car, nodded once, and said, "You run?" I said no. He smiled like he didn't believe me. Midnight. Industrial road. No cops. Just engines and ego. I lost. Bad. Cole disappeared into the darkness, and I sat there staring at my shaking hands. I thought I'd feel embarrassed. Instead, I felt hungry. That night changed everything. I started driving farther. Meeting people. Learning roads. Winning small races. Losing big ones. The Mustang broke down more times than I could count. But every fix made it stronger. So did I. 3 years later, I wasn't just racing. I was known. Not famous. But respected. Then the call came. An underground event outside the city. Big money. Big names. Winner takes all. I almost said no. My dad was sick by then. Bills stacking up. The Mustang barely holding together. But he surprised me. He walked into the garage, looked at the car, and said, "You built this thing to leave, didn't you?" I nodded. He handed me his old watch. "Then don't come back halfway." The race was chaos. Neon lights. Crowds. Engines screaming like animals. My opponent was driving a brand new Dodge Hellcat. Factory perfect. Money built. He looked at my Mustang and smirked. "You sure this thing can keep up?" I didn't answer. The flag dropped. For the first half-mile, he pulled ahead. Power. Pure, brutal power. But power doesn't know roads. I did. Every corner, every crack in the asphalt, I felt it through the wheel. The Mustang wasn't faster. It was angrier. Last stretch. He panicked. I didn't. I crossed the line first. The crowd exploded. But I wasn't smiling. Because I knew. This was the end. I sold the Mustang a month later. That hurt more than losing any race. Now I drive a normal car. Work a normal job. But sometimes, late at night, when I hear an engine echo down the road, I remember. Cars don't have souls. But they carry pieces of ours. And if you listen close enough, you can hear who you used to be. I thought selling the Mustang would set me free. Turns out, it just left a louder silence. Life went quiet after that. Too quiet. I worked at a logistics warehouse outside the city. Clock in. Clock out. Same lunch. Same road home. People around me talked about mortgages, streaming shows, weekend barbecues. Normal things. But every time I heard an engine wind up somewhere in the distance, my chest tightened like something unfinished was knocking from the inside. My dad passed away that winter. No big speech. No dramatic last words. Just a squeeze of the hand and a look that said he knew I was still driving, even when I wasn't. After the funeral, I opened the old garage for the first time in months. The space where the Mustang used to sit felt bigger than it should have been. Empty spaces always do. That's when the phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Almost. A calm voice said my name like we'd spoken yesterday. "This is Ray. You don't know me. But I know you." I waited. I run cars. Not races. Cars. I told him I wasn't interested. He chuckled. Everyone says that before they remember who they are. I hung up. 2 days later, a flatbed truck pulled up outside my place. On it sat a 1970 Dodge Charger. Black. Wide. Mean. Ray stepped out of the cab wearing a jacket that had seen more nights than sleep. "You left the game too early," he said. "And I hate unfinished stories." I told him I didn't race anymore. He nodded. "Good. Neither do we." That's how I learned the difference. Street racers race for pride. Drivers like Ray move cars that aren't supposed to move. At times they're not supposed to move. From places they're not supposed to be. No guns. No drugs. Just machines and trust. I said no again. Ray didn't argue. He just left the Charger keys on the hood. "Drive it." Then decide. I didn't sleep that night. The Charger wasn't fast like the Hellcat. Wasn't angry like the Mustang. It was steady. Confident. Like it had nothing to prove. The next morning, I called Ray. "One job," I said. "Just one." The job was simple on paper. Drive the Charger from Nevada to Oregon. No stops. No questions. No delays. But nothing ever stays simple on the road. Halfway through the desert, I noticed headlights behind me. Too steady. Too patient. I sped up. They stayed. I turned off onto an old service road. They followed. I remembered my dad's voice. Roads tell the truth. People lie. I cut the lights. Slowed. Let them pass. Unmarked Crown Vic. Old police chassis. Definitely not police. That was my welcome back. When I delivered the Charger, Ray looked at me like a mechanic listens to an engine idle. "You still got it," he said. I worked with them for 6 months. Different cars. Different roads. A lifted Silverado through mountain snow. A vintage Corvette down the coast. A beat-up Toyota that outran expectations and never complained. Every car had a story. Every road added a chapter. But something was changing. Jobs got riskier. Deadlines tighter. Silence heavier. One night, Ray sat me down. "Someone's hunting our drivers," he said. "Not cops." I asked why. He leaned back. "Because we don't crash." That's when I understood. We weren't just moving cars. We were embarrassing the wrong people. The last job came fast. Too fast. An old Impala. Midnight blue. From Texas to Arizona. No backup. No margin. I asked Ray who owned it. He looked away. "Someone who doesn't forgive mistakes." Halfway through the run, the radio crackled. Then went dead. Then headlights appeared. 3 cars this time. Aggressive. Professional. I pushed the Impala harder than it wanted to go. She held. Barely. I remembered the Mustang. How it taught me to fight. The Charger taught me control. But the Impala? The Impala taught me survival. I crossed the state line with sparks flying and hands shaking. When I stopped, Ray wasn't there. No call. No explanation. Just an envelope on the seat. Inside was his old watch. And a note. "You finally left the right way." I never saw Ray again. Sometimes I think that's the point. Now I drive for myself. Long roads. No deadlines. I stop when I want. Leave when I'm ready. And every now and then, when I park under an empty sky and the engine ticks as it cools, I realize something. I didn't lose the Mustang. I became the road it was always chasing. Night was falling slowly on the city, as if it wasn't sure whether it wanted to see what was happening here. The asphalt was shiny after a short rain, the shop windows reflected the headlights, and the air smelled of gasoline and fatigue. I sat in the car and watched the tachometer needle tremble slightly, as if it felt the tension too. This wasn't just any night. This was the end of a long road. It all started a few weeks ago, when they showed up in the city. Different cars, different personalities, different stories. An old black Dodge Charger, growling like a wounded beast. A bright red Nissan GT-R, cold and precise, like a surgeon. A white Mustang, young and daring, with an excess of power and a lack of patience. And my car was not the fastest, not the loudest, but the one that always drove me home. The city quickly understood, these cars were here for a reason. They appeared at night, disappeared in the morning, leaving behind only tire tracks and rumors. Some talked about illegal racing, some about robberies, covered up by the noise of engines. But the truth was simpler and harsher. Each of us was looking for something. Money. Confession. Escape. A second chance. That night we all gathered. Without words, without unnecessary gestures. Just cars lined up under the old bridge. Headlights cut through the darkness, engines idled, and it seemed that the city had held its breath. I knew, after this night, nothing would be the same as before. The signal was a short flash of high beam. And we moved. The asphalt gave way under the wheels, the city began to shrink into a tunnel of lights and shadows. The speed increased, the heart beat to the beat of the engine, and thoughts disappeared. Only a sense of control and risk remained. This is why people drive at night. The turns flew at us like blows. The Mustang tried to break through, the GT-R held its perfect trajectory, the Charger trailed behind, but I could hear it, a dull, heavy sound that you couldn't confuse with anything else. This wasn't a race for first place. This was a race for the right to stay. Suddenly, everything went wrong. Sirens. Blue and red flashes tore through the night. Someone broke. Someone couldn't stand it. The police showed up sooner than we expected. The city woke up. The real game began. We split up. Each went our own way, as if instinctively understanding that together we were doomed. I turned into an industrial area, warehouses, concrete, shadows. Headlights pulled empty containers, abandoned trucks, graffiti-covered walls out of the darkness. There was no room for error here. The police car was behind us, close. I could hear her breathing on my back. My hands gripped the steering wheel, my foot felt every millimeter of the pedal. I wasn't thinking about fines or prison. I was thinking only about one thing, surviving this night. I took a risk on a sharp turn. I braked later than common sense would have allowed. The car swerved, the seconds dragged on, but the wheels caught the asphalt. I went into a narrow lane where the police car couldn't enter at the same speed. The siren faded away. Silence returned abruptly and painfully. I stopped only a few blocks later. I got out of the car, leaned on the hood, and took my first deep breath of the night. Far away, I could still hear the engines. Some had run away. Some hadn't. I didn't know who had stayed on the road and who had gone down forever. The city looked different in the morning. It was as if the night had never happened. People were going to work, cafes were opening, the light was soft and indifferent. But I knew, for us, this night had become the limit. A few days later, I saw the same Charger, parked, silent, without a driver. The Mustang never showed up again. They said the GT-R had left the city forever. And I just kept driving. Now, when I drive through the night streets, I no longer seek speed for the sake of speed. I listen to the engine, look at the road, and think about the fact that every car is a story. And not all of them end in an accident or sirens. Some end in silence. And perhaps it is in this silence that you finally find yourself.